Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are honored to be sitting down with Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin. Thank you so much, Charlie, for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, you created Litecoin, which, in my opinion, is a asset that's going to, in the coming years, actually catch increasing amounts of attention in the shadow of Bitcoin. So, could you speak to what's new at Litecoin and how that journey has been?
Sure. So Litecoin has actually, it's today's, or at least this year, is Litecoin's 10th anniversary. So it's pretty amazing. It's been 10 years since the creation of Litecoin in October of 2011. Um, it's been a crazy wild ride, as you can imagine. And then recently, we've been working on um, adding more fungibility and privacy to Litecoin. So one of the projects we're working on is called MWeb, which stands for Mimblewimble Extension Block. It basically adding the Mimblewimble technology as an extension block to Litecoin.
Could you speak to Litecoin as digital silver? Bitcoin has long been broadcast as digital gold, and then in the early years, Litecoin was seen as sort of the it was the second most known and widely acclaimed cryptocurrency, and then Ethereum came along and it kind of sapped some of the attention away from Litecoin. But I think that there's a significant difference between a cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin or Litecoin and then an Ethereum and say Cardano. That is namely the scarcity factor. At this point, as far as anyone knows, there will be an infinite amount of Ethereum, there will be an infinite amount of Cardano, and people have been sort of seduced by potential future use cases of smart contracts, etc. Could you speak to Litecoin's legacy as digital silver and the importance of scarcity in crypto?
Yeah, I think so. Bitcoin and Litecoin are striving to be good sound money, whereas projects like Ethereum, Cardano, and others are doing something different, right? They're trying to be a smart contract platform or decentralized smart contract platform. So I don't see that as really competing against each other. So the market cap is really not that comparable, right? It's kind of similar to comparing the market cap of gold with the market cap of oil, right? The total value of all the oil in the world versus the total value of all the gold in the world. I don't actually even know what the total value of all the oil in the world, but gold is at about $10 trillion, right? So you don't really compare the two. They act as two different functions.
Why did the scarcity factor attract you early on or sound money?
Yeah, so we've been living in the world of fiat currency for 50 years now, right? Where the government can print as many as many bills as they want, and it devalues everyone's money, right? And that's not a very good feature of sound money. So we have gold, and when Bitcoin came out, I saw it as like a better form of gold. It has all the good features of good sound money principle of gold, but with the fact that it's digital and it's cheap to store and it's cheap to send and you can easily send it to anyone in the world. So I saw it like as an improvement to gold. So that's what kind of attracted me to Bitcoin in the first place, and also why I created Litecoin. I wanted to create something that complements Bitcoin, and it is silver to Bitcoin's gold, so to speak.
How is Litecoin to today still complementing Bitcoin?
So a few ways, right? So some people call it as like a Bitcoin testnet. We saw it in 2017 when Litecoin activated SegWit first. SegWit is a feature, an upgrade to Bitcoin that ran into a lot of contention on Bitcoin because there was a lot of people misrepresenting it, talking about how it actually introduces bugs into the system. So when Litecoin successfully activated SegWit first, it showed that the game theory still worked. people aren't able to steal coins from SegWit addresses. So all the fear and uncertainty around that kind of just was cleared up with Litecoin, with no one able to attack Litecoin and steal Litecoin SegWit coins. So I think that helped Bitcoin. So it acted as a good real world test net, because you can really test out the game theory because there's actually value on the Litecoin network. Other ways, Litecoin acts as like a cheap alternative to Bitcoin. With the fees being high, it's cheaper and easier to send small value transactions on the Litecoin network than it is on the Bitcoin network. So you start seeing a lot of people using Litecoin for that. And Litecoin just works, right? It's been running for almost 10 years nonstop, hasn't failed, there's no downtime, and people have transacted almost $1 trillion worth of money on top of the Litecoin network over these 10 years. So it works. It works as a very good alternative for lower value payments to Bitcoin.
What has surprised you the most over this 10-year journey with Litecoin?
I mean, just the success has surprised me, right? So when I first created Litecoin in 2011, it was kind of like a fun side project. I didn't expect too much of it. And to put things into perspective, when I created Litecoin, Bitcoin's whole market cap was only $100 million. And when Litecoin surpassed that, it was a huge surprise, right? For me to have created something that surpassed what Bitcoin was at the time of creation. And today, Litecoin's market cap is $13 billion, right? That's pretty incredible given how it started.
At what point did you realize that this creation of yours was gaining significant attention in the cryptocurrency space and was going to be more than just a pet project?
When it really hit me was when it hit $1 billion in, I'm trying to remember when that was. I think it was 2014, somewhere 2015, somewhere around then. When it hit $1 billion market cap, it really hit me like this is something big, right? And also around that time, I was using Litecoin to purchase things, and I purchased like a plane ticket to a Bitcoin conference, and that was like to be able to use like Litecoin as a real world currency, just really kind of sealed the deal in terms of it being an actual thing.
Can you speak to Litecoin's use as a currency, especially when compared to Bitcoin's digital gold components, and the importance of that in Litecoin's vision today?
I think the most important thing is that in the end, people use it as a currency, right? I think it's both a store of value and a means of exchange. So with Bitcoin and Litecoin, even today, it's mostly a speculative asset, right? Mostly people use it as a store of value. But I see that it's slowly starting to change, and that's very encouraging, where people are actually starting to use Litecoin and Bitcoin to buy things. Even recently today, there's a company called Moon launched a product that lets people use Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and even Lightning Network to buy stuff anywhere online. Basically, just create a virtual credit card, fund it with cryptocurrency, and then spend it.
What's been the biggest challenge in these 10 years?
I mean, the whole journey is a challenge, right? The challenge is to raise awareness, right? Get more adoption. I think Litecoin's other challenge is to kind of compete with all these other coins that are out, these new and flashy coins like Cardano, for example, that they're doing like a lot of different things. They're promising the world basically, and it's kind of tough for Litecoin to compete with those coins, because Litecoin in the end is kind of a boring coin, right? For good reason, right? You want money to be boring. You don't want to be upgrading your money every few months and possible like hard forks or bugs introduced in the system. You want something that works, that's reliable, and that's long lasting. And that's what Bitcoin and Litecoin is. And that's boring. So it's tough for Litecoin to kind of be attractive to new investors in the space because it's boring.
I think that is a phase that's going to pass. I think the space is going to, in many ways, come around full circle, and the use cases that Litecoin is providing are going to inspire people to look into it further and help them understand its uses. We've seen Bitcoin is being adopted partially because it was the first, but also because of these same boring value propositions that Litecoin presents. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think yes, maybe it's not attractive to some investors because it's boring, but in the end, it's also successful because it works and it's reliable. You see companies like PayPal last year start supporting purchasing of cryptocurrencies, and Litecoin is one of the 4 currencies that they chose to support, even though Litecoin was not the top like 4 in market cap. It's been around for 10 years and it's reliable and works and it has high liquidity and people want to spend it, hold it, and use it. So that's why PayPal supported it. And you see a lot of these other companies, like even like ATM machines, have Litecoin as the second most popular cryptocurrency supported on all ATM machines, and because of its reliability. And you're right, and it's boring and it works.
As managing director of the Litecoin Foundation, correct? That's your position currently?
Yes, I've been with the Litecoin Foundation for, well, I co-founded the Litecoin Foundation 4 years ago, and been the managing director. Basically, what we do is we support the project. We raise funds and use it to hire developers and people working on Litecoin to foster adoption and push for more awareness and adoption and help on development of the code.
What's your day-to-day look like at the Litecoin Foundation?
I'm on the computer all the time talking to people. I haven't really done much coding recently, so very rusty with coding. Maybe one day I'll get back into it. But just more about managing the team, working on partnerships, partnering with companies. Yeah, just working on awareness and adoption of Litecoin.
And what's the response you're getting from potential partners and companies as well as the community?
I mean, the response is always good, right? So everyone's obviously heard of Litecoin. Litecoin has very high liquidity, and has brand name recognition. So a lot of companies obviously want to partner with Litecoin. But the other issue with the Litecoin Foundation, I wouldn't say issue, is the difference between Litecoin Foundation and all these other like coin foundations is that unlike pretty much every other coin in the space, Litecoin is launched without a pre-mine, without a dev fund, and it's similar to Bitcoin, right? It's decentralized. Every coin is mine, right? Even I myself had to mine or buy coins on the exchange. I didn't print coins out of thin air and give it to myself. So the foundation doesn't have a lot of money, right? So a lot of these other foundations, they have a lot of money to throw around to effectively like spend it on marketing and partnerships. But for us, we do a lot of we raise funds from donations, thanks to a lot of people that support Litecoin have donated. So for example, the MWeb project that I talked about previously was mostly from donation from the community. We raised almost $100,000 to to pay for a developer to work on it for a year now, and it's been very successful. The community has been very supportive of this project and have donated to it. So yeah, so we work off donations, we work off rev share with partnership, and we also raise money from merchandise sales. So it's not a lot, but it's enough to keep it going and to help Litecoin.
I think that approach will result in a more robust organization than those organizations who were bootstrapped by funds that were created out of thin air and that were able to spend all that money into marketing. Whenever there's a little turbulence in that organization or pressure put on that organization, I think it's more likely to crumble than an organization that took a more modest, honest approach like the Litecoin Foundation. When you are kind of pondering cryptocurrency and Litecoin in at home on your own, do you ever come across situations or use case examples in which you feel Litecoin might be a stronger product than Bitcoin today?
In a few ways, it works better for smaller transactions, especially right, smaller value transactions. So the design of Bitcoin and Litecoin in terms of like fees is based on the size of the transaction in bytes, right? It's how much space you're taking up on the blockchain, right? Because space is the valuable commodity, right? If a transaction takes up like a whole megabyte of space, then it's a strain on the network for all the involved parties, right? To download that transaction, to store it, and to process it. So fees are determined by network by bytes of the transaction itself instead of the value, right? So it costs the same amount, almost the same amount to send $1 million on the Bitcoin network than it is to send $10 on the Bitcoin network. And today the transaction fees are relatively high, right? They're more than $1, sometimes $10, sometimes $20. So, but with Litecoin, the fees are low, right? They're in terms of cents, 2 cents, and 10 cents. So when you're sending $5 for a coffee purchase, it doesn't make sense to use Bitcoin, and a lot of people are using Litecoin for these purchases. And obviously, there's also the Bitcoin Lightning Network, which is gaining more popularity and becoming more robust over time, and that works also. So I see Bitcoin and Litecoin and Lightning Network kind of fulfilling the needs of crypto transactions today.
If you're speaking with a treasurer at a Fortune 500 company who is looking to invest in cryptocurrencies or diversify their holdings, Tesla recently purchased $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, but if you read their statement, they also mentioned that they are looking to diversify beyond Bitcoin. They mentioned gold as well in that document. What would you say to a treasurer who was considering perhaps Litecoin on the 10th anniversary thereof?
I'm always very honest. I don't recommend people invest in Litecoin unless they know what they're doing, right? So Litecoin is even more speculative than Bitcoin, right? When in a bear market, you see altcoins like Litecoin drop even more than Bitcoin does, and in the bull market, a lot of times it outperforms Bitcoin. Or pretty much in every bull market, it outperforms Bitcoin, but it just means that it's very volatile. So always the best bet is to first put your money into Bitcoin. So even for these corporate treasuries, you see, and that's what they're doing, right? Most of them are putting their money into Bitcoin first. And if they want to diversify, Litecoin is a good strategy for diversifying their crypto holdings. But yeah, so honestly, to be honest, I wouldn't really recommend putting all their treasure into Litecoin.
You've recently tweeted about NFTs, and NFTs although they've been gaining steam recently, they've seemed to have just gone hyperbolic in attention. And I see people from like Gary Vee to the NBA and others starting to dabble in the NFTs. Now, although I first got into Bitcoin in like 2012, and I guess I am a digital native, I'm totally lost on these NFTs. I'd pretty much rather just hold a baseball card in my hand. You recently tweeted that an NFT is a digital certificate to a collectible that can be easily, cheaply, and perfectly duplicated. Imagine if we have technology that can perfectly clone a piece of artwork to the last detail where it's indistinguishable to the original, even by experts. Then we can duplicate, for example, the Mona Lisa, and every person can hang a perfect replica of the Mona Lisa on a wall at home. That reduces the value of the original Mona Lisa because no one can prove that it's the original. You go on to discuss that while NFTs have value, that perhaps they're not as valuable as many people seem to believe they will be. So, for instance, Jack recently auctioned off his tweet, which at last time I checked, was at $5 million. What are your thoughts on NFTs?
For your example, the Jack's tweet, he's not actually auctioning off his tweet, right? So he's using, it's not like Twitter is auctioning off the tweet. So a third party platform is effectively tokenizing the tweet and auctioning it off on behalf of Jack. And then if someone buys it, if Jack agrees to sell it, then he gets part of the money, right? So these NFTs are kind of a third party thing, right? So one example is someone sold a tweet used on that platform, and then after he sold it, he actually deleted the tweet on Twitter. So the person who bought the tweet basically bought something that linked to a deleted tweet, and so they didn't really, the person who owned that tokenized tweet didn't actually really own anything in the end, right? They just own like what I describe as a certificate of authenticity, right? Or even just a signature. So, and the underlying art tweet, for in this example, is not really owned by the person who bought it, right? He just owned a certificate of authenticity. So I think a lot of people buying NFTs these days don't have their head grasp around this concept that NFT is not actually the art itself. So when you're buying an NFT, you're effectively buying a signature or a certificate of authenticity. And as we saw with the tweet being able to be deleted, you don't actually own the art. And today I saw someone was selling a bunch of artwork on OpenSea, and he just tweeted that he did a rug pull on all the artwork, because after he sold all the artwork, he actually changed the art on OpenSea to pictures of rugs. So the people who bought his artwork in the end they actually now own pictures of rugs instead of picture of the original artwork. So that is kind of shows the point that what you're actually buying, you have to really understand what you're actually buying, right? What you're actually buying is actually just a token that is pointing to, in this case, OpenSea, which is a central database of artwork. And if someone edits that link to point it to some other artwork, you effectively just lost a lot of value in your purchase, right? So I think there's definitely a lot of hype around NFT, and people are spending a lot of money on it. But there's going to be a lot of NFTs coming out. Like we just yesterday, Taco Bell got into the action and released a bunch of pictures of tacos and sold for quite a bit of money. Right? You're going to start seeing a lot of these brands trying to take advantage of this kind of free money, right? So I think the NFT hype will die down over time, and a lot of these will lose value. But there's obviously going to be some that are actually really worth money, right? There's going to be some cool artwork, some cool novel use of NFT that is not just a link to a digital art that anyone can copy, and those will retain value.
What are some examples of these potential use cases for NFTs in the future?
I think NFT used in game is quite interesting. So like unique items that people can earn in the game and they can sell on the open market. That's very cool, right? Being able to um, so for example, like games like Diablo or any of these games where you can find some unique armor or weapon, and because they have value in the game, because they're very useful in the game, they have value outside. Where and if something is if these items are NFTs, then you can sell it outside of the game, right, to someone else on for crypto or whatever, right? And it makes it very cool to be able to transfer assets outside of the game, because the value is there's value in this NFT because the game gives it value. Um, I think things like that could be very interesting. Um, and smart contracts built with NFTs could be interesting, where let's say an NFT is a piece of art, the artist can get a uh, kind of can earn money even with secondary sales of his artwork. That something like that could be quite interesting.
You compare NFTs to the ICOs of 2017. DeFi is another concept in cryptocurrency that has really caught fire. What is your outlook on DeFi? And does it have a brighter outlook, in your opinion, than NFTs?
I think, yeah. So in 2017, the ICOs were what was really hot in 2017, and now in 2021, I think NFTs is the kind of the equivalent thing. Yeah, I've compared it to 2017's ICOs because I see it as kind of something that's simple, easy to understand, and it really brings more awareness and adoption to the whole crypto space. A lot of people, uh, new people get into a space after kind of buying their NFTs and learning about Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, and it's good for bringing more awareness to this space. And just like ICOs, I think it's overhyped and kind of it will die down over the next year or two. One thing that so compared to DeFi, I think DeFi kind of failed to do what NFT is doing today, right? So DeFi is hot, but it's only hot in the crypto space. People who are already into crypto are putting their money into DeFi, but people outside of crypto who's kind of new to cryptocurrencies, DeFi is way too complicated for them, right? Whereas NFT is something simple and easy to grasp and easy to understand.
What inspires you most, Charlie, these days in cryptocurrency?
Um, I would say the just seeing it grow into something that is unstoppable, right? When I first found out about Bitcoin in 2011, it was very new, but it could easily be, um, it could easily just become nothing, right? Bitcoin, the value could go to zero. The government can come in and kind of just stomp it out if they wanted to. It was a very risky thing to invest in. But just seeing that how it's becoming an unstoppable force is very inspiring, right? We're seeing companies like Square and MicroStrategy and even Tesla putting their corporate treasury into Bitcoin. That's pretty amazing, right? To see that happening now. That's something that I would never have even dreamed of a few years ago, right? And then I I bet the next step is for actual countries to start putting their treasuries into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. I think that would be the next big step, and I think that's inevitable. Countries will start seeing that their their money is being devalued, and they need a hard asset, and gold is not as good as Bitcoin today. So countries will start putting money into Bitcoin, and I think that would be huge.
What are the implications of the world understanding sound money, or perhaps more directly, understanding that fiat is not sound money?
I think it's going to take a while for that to happen. So most people today are born into this current kind of fiat system, right? This happened in about 50 years ago. Actually, it's 50 years ago today when the U.S. dollar backing to the gold backing of the U.S. dollar was removed, right? And that's when it became a fiat currency, when it's not backed by anything, only by fiat decree. So, and we're just used to it, right? I was born into this world where U.S. dollar is money, right? And it's because everyone thinks it's money. Um, when the more and more people are starting to see the harm of that, right? Where today the U.S. government or the Fed is just printing money left and right. They're just the amount of money printed this year and last year is incredible, right? And that's devaluing everyone's money that they're holding. So that's why you see a lot of people putting money into gold, silver, and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, because it's a form of money that can't be devalued by governments or companies or any third party, right? And that's very valuable. You want money to last, right? You don't want money that will lose its purchasing power over time. So as more and more people start to realize that, and people start putting their money into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, I think it's going to be good for society.
I think Bitcoin's original value proposition centered upon this topic. And of course, the use cases for cryptocurrency has expanded. We kind of made the distinguishment between a Bitcoin and a Litecoin and an Ethereum and a Cardano. Could you speak more to the importance of some of these cryptocurrencies that highlight the sound money propositions of cryptocurrency, and how you see global attention centering upon cryptocurrency as more and more people realize that whereas a Bitcoin and a Litecoin has a finite amount, some of these other cryptocurrencies who have, in my opinion, less than proven value propositions have infinite.
Yeah, I think, I mean, um, having a finite amount or of it's the scarcity is important, right? So gold is valuable because it's a scarce resource, right? There's a finite amount on Earth, and no one can just create gold out of thin air, and that's important for money, and that's why gold and silver have been used as money throughout the years. And that's similar to Bitcoin and Litecoin, right? Bitcoin has 21 million total, Litecoin has 84 million total, that will ever exist in the world, and no one can change that because of the decentralized nature of the coin. If someone tried to say change the source code for Bitcoin to have 22 million coins, no one else would adopt it, and if no one else adopts it, it's not going to change, right? So I don't see that changing for Bitcoin or Litecoin ever, right? So that's a very that's a very good feature of Bitcoin and Litecoin. And you're right, that's not the case for a lot of other cryptocurrencies, right? So Ethereum, I don't think has a hard cap. It just keeps printing more and more ETH over time. Same for a lot of these other coins. I think that's definitely a big difference between Bitcoin, Litecoin versus like Ethereum, other coins. But the other big difference is that no one kind of owns a large amount of coins for Bitcoin and Litecoin, right? So it wasn't created with a pre-mine, so there's no like company around it that has a lot of funds that was created initially. So you see like coins where like Ripple XRP, for example, where the Ripple company effectively controls like more than half of the coins in existence, right? And they use the coins to pay people, to create partnerships and do stuff. And in the end, the SEC came down on them and said that they're a security, because the XRP, they kind of just create a lot of coins for themselves and are promoting it. And in some sense, Ethereum is also a security, but I think they're getting a pass because it's becoming more and more decentralized over time. But in the end, the Ethereum Foundation still holds, and Vitalik still holds a lot of ETH that was just created in the beginning and just given to them, right? And that's the case for almost every other coin out there. Like all the other top 10 coins out there have a huge amount of funds that were created out of thin air and given to a foundation or given to the developers or the founders. And in that sense, it's hard for these coins to become adopted as a world currency, right? It doesn't make sense for a world currency, to be something that is created by a company and that company holds a lot of it.
It's very compelling, and I think it's a vision that cryptocurrency is going to have to come back to eventually, especially at the grassroots level. I think a lot of the newcomers are very excited about things like NFTs, but at the end of the day, it's really these original use cases and visions that coins such as Bitcoin and Ethereum laid out, which will serve humanity the best. And so I'm curious, could you speak a little bit to kind of where you see Litecoin in the year 2100 or cryptocurrency in the year 2100?
No one really knows, obviously, right? So yeah, I think what Bitcoin and Litecoin kind of the value proposition of cryptocurrencies, specifically Bitcoin and Litecoin, is the kind of the decentralized nature of it, right? The important thing is a few things. One is no one can just devalue the money you hold, right? So if you have money in Bitcoin and Litecoin, it won't be devalued by someone else's decision, and that's important, right? So that's why like gold was such a big thing, where if you're holding gold, your value will not be devalued by someone else's actions. The second important thing about cryptocurrencies is the censorship resistant nature of it, right? You can send money to anyone in the world without any other person being able to say no, right? So what attracted me to Bitcoin initially was that aspect of it, because before, I think in 2009 or 2010 or 2011, there was I was playing poker online, and there was I think it was called like Poker Black Friday, when the US government shut down all the online poker sites. And the way they did that is by shutting down all the payment methods, where they contacted Visa, MasterCard, and all the banks and told them that do not process any transactions to these poker websites, and made all these transactions illegal. And by controlling the money flow, they effectively shut down online poker. And to me, online poker there's nothing wrong with online poker, right? Poker is a game of skill, and you're just playing with some other people online in a game of skill for money. And there's no reason why the government should have a say on whether or not you can do something like that. So for my, like, that really hit me that money is not, it's not free, right? You're effectively using fiat currency, and it's controlled by the government. So what Bitcoin did was it provided freedom of money, right? Money where no one else has a say on what you do with it. And that's why like things like Silk Road was very popular with Bitcoin initially, right? So people can spend Bitcoin and buy what they want on Silk Road without someone else being able to say they can't do that. And I think that's a very important feature of money, censorship resistance, to be able to use money however you want it without anyone being able to say no.
What's next for Litecoin and the Litecoin Foundation more specifically?
What's next is our work on adding more fungibility and privacy to Litecoin. I think fungibility is one of the features of good money that is missing from Bitcoin and Litecoin. And by fungibility, I'm talking about kind of the ability to spend coins without worrying about which coin you're spending. So, for example, the US dollar is fungible. If you go to a store and you pull out a $20 bill, it doesn't matter which bill you pull out from your wallet; they're exactly the same. The merchant is not going to discriminate against a $20 bill, right? So with Bitcoin and Litecoin today, that's not exactly true for Bitcoin and Litecoin. It's not fungible because there's history attached to the blockchain. So every transaction has a historical history of where the coins were sent from, who sent it, and also there's fungibility and privacy in terms of the amount being known. Right. So if I buy let's say like 10 Bitcoins on an exchange and then immediately use that to pay for coffee or to pay a friend, the recipient can actually see that I own 10 Bitcoins. And that's not good for financial privacy, right? Even if I'm not doing anything illegal, I wouldn't want anyone to know how much money I have or how much money I just bought off an exchange. And that's just financial privacy that I want to keep to myself. And I think everyone has a right to financial privacy. So what we're doing with Litecoin is adding a technology called Mimblewimble to the network such that you can make your coins more fungible and more private. So when you send your coins to the Mimblewimble extension block, once it's there, all your Litecoins the amount will be hidden to the world. But it uses cryptography to make sure that you're not creating money out of thin air. So when I send one Litecoin to you, no one can see that I actually sent one Litecoin to you. Only you and I can see that I sent one Litecoin to you. But everyone else can see that I sent a certain amount to you and I didn't create more Litecoins out of thin air. So I think technologies like that would really help with fungibility and privacy. And it help improve Litecoin to make it more like a better form of money.
Do you have any concluding thoughts on the state of cryptocurrency today in 2021 or the state of Litecoin on its 10th anniversary?
I think that over the past 10 years, Litecoin has just gotten better and better, right? So the price, people concentrate on the price a lot, and for good reasons, right? So the price has been very volatile, right? Every 3-4 years, we see a bull market, right? 4 years ago, we saw Litecoin go to like $360, and then over the last few years, it crashed back down to $23 at the low. Right, that's a crazy volatility, and Bitcoin has similar volatility. It went from 20,000 to 3,000, but now we're seeing it come back to a bull market again. I think we're going to see more and more like this will continue but over time, the price will become less volatile as it starts to kind of approach where I see Bitcoin and Litecoin heading to, right? So but we're going to see a few more of these bull bear market cycles, but over these years, during the bear market, we just see more people just have their heads down and work on improving the network, right? As we see more and more people start using Bitcoin, more and more people start using Bitcoin and Litecoin, it's going to slowly but surely become kind of used by everyone in the world.
We have been honored to sit down today with Charlie Lee, the creator of Litecoin. Thank you so much, Charlie, for joining us today. People can find your work at twitter.com/Satoshi Light. Where else can they find you?
I think Twitter is the best place to find me. Yeah, it's a great platform for communication, for social media. So I use Twitter predominantly. It's the best place.
And of course, litecoin.org. Thank you so much, Charlie, for joining us today. And thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah, thanks a lot.